What's going on, traders? Welcome to Investing Trends, where we talk about the latest news and trades on trending stocks. Welcome back to the Ark Invest series. In this video, we track the daily trades of the popular ETF of Ark Invest on a consolidated basis, the trading activity of all 5 ETFs combined, and look for trends on trading activity to pick and choose favorites and promising ones. Sure, you can just buy the ETF and pay Ark the management fee. That is the passive way to invest, and if that works for you, then go right ahead. This is for more active investors who likes to pick and choose after doing due diligence on individual stocks. This concept is important, and everybody who follows Cathie Wood needs to know this because Ark Invest got messed up this week. Aunt Cathie got cornered and beat up left and right and kicked while she's down. She got hit hard and all of their ETFs tanked. There is this one fundamental issue with ARK ETFs, and that one fundamental issue is investor outflow. A mad dash of investors pulling out their money all at once. ARK Invest experienced this week. It killed their portfolio performance and all the stocks that make up their ETFs. The thing is that when things are good, ARK gets new investors and new inflows of capital in a smooth and consistent way. However, when a catalyst comes up, investors tend to pull out their money all at once, and in order to meet all the sells, ARK needs to sell the stocks and their ETFs take a hit. Look at this chart from Bloomberg Terminal. ARKK saw the biggest capital outflow on the 23rd of February, with $465 million being pulled out. Compared to the past, the outflow is staggering. Remember this date, February 23rd, because you will see the daily activity when we dive into the daily spreadsheet. Now, some of you may think that this is not too bad. $465 million is nothing compared to the $50 billion that she manages. It's pennies. Yes, this is true, but the issue is that this is just a one-time data, and you need to see the trend. The trend is important, and the question is what happened the next day. Well, the outflow didn't stop on the 23rd, and it continued. Investors kept pulling out their capital from Ark Invest. While we see a slight uptick in capital inflow the next day, people who bought the dip, the following day on the 25th, there was another major outflow. Close to $200 million of investors pulling out their money. If this trend continues, and if we see investors pulling out their capital from Cathie's management, then the ETFs will continue to go down, and the stocks that make up these ETFs will also go down with it, as Cathie will need to sell those stocks. So if you're a dead-on Cathie Wood fan and nothing can change your mind, then I suppose you think this is the best thing that ever happened to you, and it is time to buy the dip. You might be right, and that this thing may flow over in the next week or so, and by the end of the year, ARK will be back on its new highs. But what I urge you to do is to take a step back and think about it just a little bit. You need to calibrate and decipher what is going on instead of just blindly jumping in. Questions to ask yourself are things like, what is causing the dip in the market? Why are investors pulling out of ARK Invest? Will other investors watch what is happening and buy the dip, or follow the people who left first and also pull out their capital? At least ask yourself these questions, assess the situation, and make strategic investment decisions. For what it's worth, here's what I think. The market dropped because of the 10-year Treasury yield going up to 1.7%, which is a high number not seen in a while. Investors are probably thinking that the equity market is stretched enough and risky compared to the new high yield from the Treasury, and will rather pull out their capital from the equity market and put it into the safer bond market. Boomers, right? Who invests in bonds? Old people. But that is the reality, and a lot of boomers have more money and they want safer alternatives, and with Treasury yield going up, the alternative option is there for them. Now, what about long term? Do I think this is going to continue? Well, short term it may. I wouldn't be surprised if ARK ETFs tanks some more as this just started. This is what usually happens. There's a group of first movers. Once these first movers move, other institutions, pension funds, endowments take notice, analyze the situation, and most likely decide to follow the herd. More people and institutions will move out their capital, and we may see more sell-off here. But I don't think they're going to be pulling out all their capital, right? It is going to be a small portion, more like taking profits and putting those profits into safer investments. Once people have done that, I think the stock market sell-off will be done and back on the uptrend. Especially with the US government $2 trillion stimulus looking promising, Jay Powell holding steady of the boat, I think long term we'll be back on track. This is what I think, and take it for what it's worth. One last thing I want to show you though about Ark Invest is the huge drawdown that ARKK experienced this week. Drawdown simply means how much did the stock price go down. Since February the 12th, ARKK went down 17% when major indices went down 4 to 7%. Drawdowns are very important as it shows how risky an investment is, the beta of the security. And please consider this before you throw money at any investment. That being said, let's dive into the daily trades of all of Ark Invest's ETFs on a consolidated basis for this week. And this week was important in a sense it was clear what Cathie Wood likes and dislikes in their portfolio. When your house is on fire and burning, what would you take with you as you run for safety? That is what was happening to Cathie Wood, and this week is when you realize which stocks are her golden child. Remember the huge outflow on the 23rd? Well, let's go a few days before the 23rd. Put a normal day here on the 19th, we see business as usual. On the 22nd, we see business as usual, some buying and selling. Market value is quite red and down, but Cathie was buying the dip. But here on the 23rd, the big capital outflow happens. We see market value deep red, and Cathie couldn't do anything but to sell shares. The house caught on fire, and she needed to start saving what she valued the most, and that was Tesla, Spotify, Unity software, and Twitter. In order to save the golden children, she had to let go of others. So in this section, she sold off Roku, Tencent, and Sea Limited. Of course, she sold off shares of other stocks down the list, but I wanted to give you the idea that she had to drop stuff she didn't care to save the ones she liked more. Here are the daily trades as I start from the beginning and go to the right. Check out the trading pattern here and see it for yourself. Unfortunately for me, I followed Ark Invest and bought Nintendo stock. This week was the first time I see Cathie selling Nintendo, and she had to do it with the capital outflow problem. I am still up 17% on Nintendo, but unfortunately, Nintendo didn't make the cut and shares had to be sold. Here's the next section where I want to talk about Palantir stock. You can see how many shares were bought or sold for a stock on this column N. Also check out the column Q for the trends as it helps me analyze the flow of the activity instead of just watching it as a snapshot. So Palantir. One thing I learned after watching Cathie Wood's videos, interviews, and then her trading activity is to not trust what she says on TV entirely. I saw it on CRISPR Therapeutics where she came on CNBC, talked up the stock when I saw her selling off shares on the stock. So her actions were different from what she was promoting on TV. For what it's worth, she's not doing that with Palantir. She has been buying up Palantir as the stock kept going downhill, and on Friday she bought a whopping 3.3 million shares. Palantir is one of her golden child. Here are the daily trades as I scroll to the right. If you're still watching this, thank you for watching my video, and it would be great if you subscribed and gave it a thumbs up. It helps out the channel and my motivation to make more videos like this. Going down the list, we see Alibaba, an Apple stock being sold off. 40% of Cathie's Baba holdings got sold this week. That is almost half of what she owned. Think about this, cutting your position in half. Same with Apple. She sold half of her holdings in Apple this week. I saw this coming as I knew she was owning a lot of the big name companies, the staple stocks, as more of a cash reserve. Here are the daily trades for the stocks in this section. We see red all around, and this is just ugly. I know that you lost a lot of money this week. Hope by looking at what Cathie does gives you some comfort. At least know that she lost a boatload in both stock performance and capital lost from outflows. That is money that she lost forever unless they come back. Some good news on this next section for investors who own CM Life and Signify Health, as those two stocks were Cathie's golden child in this section. 1.3 million shares of CM Life was bought this week. Over 150% of Signify Health shares were bought this week as well. Let me scroll to the right here so you can see the daily trades. EXPC was another one that she bought a lot of shares this week, which is a SPAC that is looking to merge with Blade Helicopter, the taxi service. And here's the last section where we see a new position in the stock 1, ticker AONE. This is a new SPAC that Cathie invested in, where they announced to merge with a 3D printing company called Markforged. The deal is valued at $2.1 billion. I don't really believe in 3D printing just yet, so this is a pass for me. Here are the daily trades in this section. Check out Salesforce though. I remember Salesforce being included in Ark ETF not that long ago, but here we see the end of CRM in their portfolio. Sold 99% of their shares this week by selling 431,000 shares, which just leaves them with 3,400 shares left over. Well, that's it for this video. Hope this gives you some comfort in the stocks that you own as we saw market correction this week. Let this be a guide to your investing needs and long-term investing to reach financial freedom. Please invest safely. Subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. I thank you, appreciate you, and see you next time.